Hello, welcome back to our channel. And our topic for today is about components of critical thinking. Okay, but before that, let's go back to the definition of critical thinking. What is critical thinking to you? Critical thinking is a way of deciding whether a claim is true, partially true, or false. Okay, so let's go back to the components of critical thinking. Critical thinking consists of a skill set and attitude. There are 6 major components of critical thinking. Number 1 is interpretation. Number 2 is analysis. 3 inference. 4 explanation. 5 evaluation. And 6 is self-regulation. Those are the 6 components of a good critical thinking. Attitude towards critical thinking. This component helps a critical thinker to evaluate these questions. Do you try to solve problem using reasoning? Are you willing to consider or reconsider what you believe? Example, which thing is more important, the skill or the attitude? Changing belief and attitude based upon result is difficult. 3 easy techniques to improve your critical thinking skills. Technique number 1 to improve your critical thinking skill. How does someone know that? So here's the technique number 1. How does someone know what they claim to know? Do they claim through the result of a reliable process? It increases the likelihood of claim to be true. Bad ways that people use when they claim to know things. Someone told them, so it on internet or TV, everyone knows it. Not a reliable way to reach a conclusion. Good reasons and ways to know. Knowing something from evidence is the best way to come to knowledge. Logics, proofs. The Dunning-Kruger effect. When one lacks metacognitive tools to make reliable judgment, the technique number 2 is counterexample. The odd numbers 3, 5, 7 are prime, therefore all odd numbers are prime. So that is false. Everything natural is good for you. False again. Where there is smoke, there is fire. False again. Technique number 3, how could my belief be wrong? What conditions have to be in place so my belief could be an error? Create possibility of doubts. Discussion. Are cell phones safe? Do they cause brain tumor? So here are some benefits of critical thinking at work. As more employers are looking for employees, not with specialized academic skills but with good thinking and communication skills, who can learn quickly and solve problems, shows creativity, gathers and analyze the issue meaningfully. This has become a vital skill for any professional. Benefits of critical thinking in our daily life. Help us avoid making foolish decisions. Help us become a good citizen capable of making good decisions on important social, political, and economic issues. It helps us in developing good thinking skill capable of examining our own assumptions and dogmas. However, there are barriers to critical thinking. You might ask, if the critical thinking is so important, Then why is uncritical thinking so common? Why is it that so many people, including highly educated and intellectual people, find it difficult to think critically? So here are 5 most powerful barriers to critical thinking: the egocentrism, sociocentrism, unwarranted assumption, wishful thinking, and relativism. Okay guys, so that's all for today, and don't forget to answer questions at the end of this video. Here are characteristics of a good critical thinker. Critical thinkers are honest with themselves, regard problems and controversial issues as exciting challenges, strive for more understanding, keep curiosity alive, remain patient with complexity. Another characteristic of a good critical thinker: he bases judgment on evidence rather than personal preferences, interested in other people's ideas, and so are willing to read and listen attentively, practice fair-mindedness, and seek balanced view, practice restraint, controlling their feelings rather than being controlled by them. Okay class, so here is critical thinking skills you need to master. Now you have some understanding of what critical thinking is. It's helpful to break down it into skills. So here are the skills you need to divide the critical thinking process into several steps. Okay, so number 1, we have analysis, thinking about a topic or issue objectively and critically. This could start with clarifying the issue. For example, the issue is of climate change. It's about sustainability and future generation. Interpretation or reflection, by identifying and reflecting on different arguments relating to an issue. In our example, this includes identifying and reflecting on the arguments presented by the man-made climate change advocates and those supporting natural climate change. Next is evaluation. Critically evaluating how strong and valid are different points of view, including any weaknesses of negative aspects in the evidence of arguments. Inference, considering the implication there might be behind a statement or argument. For example, considering the ramification of a decision will have for yourself and others. Problem solving and decision making, giving structured reasoning and support to your choice. So now, how you will improve your critical thinking skills? It sounds simple enough, but how do you develop these critical thinking skills? The good news is that substantial evidence shows that critical thinking can be learned, although there is still debate about the best way to teach it. A recent review of research about teaching critical thinking published by the New South Wales Department of Education concluded that teaching so-called generic critical thinking skills such as logical reasoning is largely ineffective. As the study, author Daniel Willingham, education expert and professor of psychology at the University of Virginia, writes, it is not useful to think of critical thinking skills once acquired as broadly applicable, wanting students to be able to analyze, synthesize, and evaluate. Information sounds like a reasonable goal, but analysis, synthesis, and evaluation mean different things in different disciplines. For example, he notes that the critical thinking skills required for literary criticism are very different from those for mathematics. Different domains such as science and history have different definition of what it means to know something. And he thus argues that our goals for student critical thinking must be domain specific. An overarching principle like think logically is not useful goal. In other words, teaching critical thinking is best done within its specific content. For example, in history, students need to learn the skills of evaluating documents by considering their historical context, intended purpose, and audience, and how they compare to other documents. So when it comes to what you can do at home, skills you need to recommend these strategies. Start by deciding what you're aiming to achieve. Be aware of how personal preferences and biases might influence your thinking. Use foresight. They point out that our decision making will be infinitely better and more likely to lead to success if, when we reach a tentative conclusion, we pause and consider the impact on the people and activities around us. And number 4, practice and persevere. Like any skill, developing critical thinking takes time and effort. So number 1 question here is, what are the benefits of critical thinking? Okay, I'll give you a snippet. Those are the benefits of critical thinking. What are the 5 critical thinking questions? I'll give you again a snippet. Okay, those are key questions. So what are the benefits of critical thinking at workplace and in daily life? What are the characteristics of a critical thinker? What are the disadvantages of critical thinking? What are the basics of critical thinking? And what are the examples of critical thinking? And lastly, what are the 7 critical thinking skills? Again, I'll give you a snapshot, okay, how to improve your critical thinking skills in 7 steps. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 questions for you to answer, guys, on a piece of white bond paper. Send your answer sheet, the JPEG or the soft copy, into our Google Classroom and keep the hard copy in a brown envelope, and that will be submitted after midterm exam right here in our school. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment our videos and get updated. Thank you.